Gooders, welcome back to the Gooner Pavilion, and this is Arsenal's second of four consecutive away games in January in different competitions, different stadiums, different atmosphere, and we just came through a game against Portsmouth. Started a little bit rough, but we got the job done. And this right here, guys, this Chelsea versus Arsenal in the semi-final of the League Cup is the biggest game for Arsenal. It's the biggest game not because it's Chelsea, not because it's Stamford Bridge, but it's because it's two games away from going to Wembley. And so it is so important because the trophy settles nerves. It settles the team. It settles, everything around the club. It tells those Arsenal haters that have found every single thing to throw stones at Arsenal. Just go back to the bench. Go back to the back of the class. More importantly, it tells the team that there is belief in what we're doing. It gives belief to the players. A trophy just elevates everything that they've been working hard for so long, because Arsenal has been knocking on the door, season in, season out. And what's more importantly is now that we can walk through that door and just get the reward for our efforts. So this is a huge game, and I want to preview this game the way that we normally do, and I want to talk about what we learned from that game against Chelsea, what Chelsea will be looking at right now, where the key places where Arsenal can take advantage of Chelsea, and more importantly, how I think that this game is going to go. So don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button if you're here as well, and share this with as many Arsenal fans as possible. And if you're coming back here after watching our video before, I really appreciate you, and I say thank you for that. All right, let's get into the preview of Chelsea versus Arsenal Carabao Cup semi-final first leg. Okay, so let's rewind into November, right? Arsenal played Chelsea at Stamford Bridge, and that game ended 1-1. And Arsenal played against Chelsea's 10 men for over 50 minutes. Caicedo got sent off around the 38 minutes, of that game. And yet Arsenal didn't run away with that game. We didn't, you would expect that with 10 men, we would completely overpower Chelsea and go for 2, 3, 4 goals. But why was that? Why didn't Arsenal dominate Chelsea? Well, Arsenal conceded from a corner, a rare weakness, in that game. Not something that we typically do as well. Arsenal struggled to break down a compact mid block from Chelsea. Now, this is something that most Arsenal fans will be very familiar with, because we see it regularly in a lot of the Arsenal games, especially at the Emirates, when we play teams and they just sit down and dare us to break them down. And sometimes we've had some success, sometimes we've not, and it has caused frustration. Especially most recently, we just played Liverpool. So fans will remember what that felt like. Then we also had injuries to Saliba and Gabriel. We cannot underestimate how important those two players are, especially for our defensive solidity. So those two players were out, and Chelsea imposed a physicality and tempo in that game that it was either it caught us out cold, or we just didn't adjust to that. I think this game will be more of the same, but also slightly different. And we're going to talk about, the areas where they would be different. So Arsenal didn't have that number one thing that they always want, and that's control. Mikel Arteta's teams are all about control. We didn't have that control in that game. And so this semi-final, control is everything. So when we look at the stats, on this game, and I'm going to go back to the stats from the Chelsea game, because Arsenal had an XG of 1.26, Chelsea had 0.79. Open play XG from Arsenal was 1.13 and Chelsea was 0.38. The set piece for Chelsea was 0.42, with Arsenal being 0.13. We didn't have a lot of corners in that game. Aerial duels, Chelsea won, and that was the massive. It was 70% compared to Arsenal's 30. And what that really meant was that even though Arsenal played a little bit better in open play, Chelsea were dangerous when the ball stopped. Pedro Neto, we know how very good he is when it comes to delivering the dead ball situation. Of course, we've got Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka, but we didn't have enough opportunities to actually allow them to use that skill and asset to help us in that game. And that really tells you where that game was decided. Now, Chelsea is very different right now. So is Arsenal, but Chelsea more so. They've sacked Enzo Maresca and Liam Rossino has come in. Now, it's a little bit difficult to figure out how exactly he's going to play. I do believe that if you look back at what he did in Strasbourg, there's going to be a lot of those things that he's going to be carrying into this game. A little bit of that showed in the game against Charlton, even though he made lots of changes. They still play 3-4-3 when they were trying to go into attack. And then when we're without the ball, they drop into the 4-2-3-1 sort of structure. I expect that to be exactly the same in this game. Potentially Liam Delap starting, this game, as well. Now, Chelsea would want to sit compact because that works for them. It can allow them, especially in this game, to really, really deny the spaces for Arsenal. They want to compete physically. Caicedo is going to be back for this game. Of course, he's going to probably want to have a prove a point, after, he lost his head in that first time that we encountered them. It's just crazy that we're going to play Chelsea 4 times this season. I think that's just too many times on one opposition. So things are going to swing either way. Let's just be prepared for that. Chelsea are going to want to force transitions in this game, and they're going to target corners and free kicks. Chelsea are actually quite decent when it comes to set pieces, and they've scored, in all the set pieces and everything, penalties included, they scored about 13, only about 2 just behind Arsenal, who are 15 in all set pieces, and if you add penalties to that as well. So they scored the same amount of set pieces, direct set pieces as Arsenal as well. So that tells you that that's something that they would also be looking to use to hurt Arsenal. But this is our strength, so we shouldn't be shy about taking advantage of that in this game. And listen, if I'm on the pitch, right, there are things that I'll be looking out for because Chelsea tell you where they are fragile if you're patient enough to listen. And the first thing is set pieces. I know I talked about set pieces being their strength in terms of scoring, but I don't really like defending set pieces, especially recently. If you watch the game against Bournemouth, if you are able to pin, some of their defenders back a little bit, and you get to that first ball, it creates a little bit of chaos for Chelsea in the box, and Arsenal should take a full advantage of that. Whether it's long balls, situation, corners, second balls from clearances. I think this is where we can hurt Chelsea. We are the best in the league when it comes to creating the chaos in the box from set pieces. So I expect that to continue. They know it's a weakness. We know it's a strength for us. So if I'm standing at a corner in that game, I think Arsenal players will be feeling very, very confident. If Declan Rice is standing there, Saka is standing there, I think I'll be going there with confidence as well. The second thing for me is discipline because Chelsea do crack under pressure, right? They don't lose control because they are reckless, right? They lose it because they are reactive. So they've had 7 red cards in all competitions this season, more than any Premier League club. Yeah, I remember last season we used to be the ones, when it comes to red cards, and everyone was talking about, oh, Arsenal is indisciplined and all of that. The counter is that Chelsea are a young team. So there is also that emotional stability that they're going to have to learn. And in the last 5 games that they've lost, 4 of them they've had reds in them. So it's not a coincidence. They do collapse under that pressure, and Arsenal must take advantage of it. Because like clockwork, it will happen. If we tighten up the pressure, Chelsea are going to do something that we can actually take advantage of for as well. And my personal favorite, this is the wide isolation. And listen, Chelsea fullbacks don't like being left alone. To be fair, most fullbacks don't like to be left alone, especially when you're coming up against Arsenal. And Cucurella did a great job against Bukayo Saka in that reverse fixture. You got to give credit. And Bukayo Saka didn't dribble past him once in that game. But the thing was that Saka still had the last laugh, right? Because the telling cross that Merino scored our equalizer from came from Bukayo Saka whipping across. So, and I love what Bukayo Saka is doing this season, right? He's finding different ways to add to his game. So he can go on the outside, he can come on the inside, he can stop, be patient, engage, and then get a crossing. And that for me just makes that he's so unpredictable. And that's why he's one of the best on the right wing. And I think we're going to really see Bukayo Saka, especially not playing that Portsmouth game. I think we'll give him a chance to refuel, re-energize, and get ready for this game, because I think Arsenal have got a point to prove against a big team, because we haven't really won a lot of those this season, and playing and winning against Chelsea will really, really send a message. So Chelsea would have to work out, this 1v1. I'm sure they're going to pull players into help, which is exactly what they do. But Arsenal, we just need to keep going at it and keep applying pressure in that. And then hopefully, we can take advantage of it. And one thing that we didn't do a lot in that Chelsea game was create scenarios for corners, right? Corners is a tool that we should embrace. Like, I don't care what people are saying, set piece FC, corner FC, I don't care. It's a strength for us. Let's manufacture the scenarios that allow us to get corners in games and take advantage of it. So how do Arsenal win this time? Right, it's one big idea for me. We got to stack discomfort on Chelsea, make them defend set pieces. So we need lots and lots of corners in this game. Make them chase without fouling. We cannot give them opportunity, to have dead ball situations, especially around zone 14, and make their fullbacks have to choose what what their appeal should be, right? Let's make them make lots of decisions in this game, and then we can turn some of their errors into big wins for Arsenal. Now, for me, when it comes to team news, the biggest thing for Arsenal is the fact that Saliba and Gabriel are back, right? That game, we didn't have any of those players, and I want them to get back to the defensive solidity that they have. We're still conceding goals here and there, but I think we need to, just get back to what we knew how to do best. And I'm so glad those players are there, because remember when I was talking about area duels, Chelsea actually, were far ahead and superior to Arsenal. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that we didn't have Saliba and Gabriel in this game, especially Gabriel sets the tone both defensively and from the attack perspective, for Arsenal as well. So my team, right, I expect Kappa to play. I think he will stick with Kappa. There is a temptation for Raya to come in because it's the semi-finals, but I mean, you've been rocking with Kepa all this while, so why don't you continue with him? So Kepa in goal, Saliba, Gabriel, center back. Nkapia, if he's ready to go, I expect him to play that left back. I think this game is not the one for Miles Lewis Kelly. And by the way, I did do a segment about Miles Lewis Kelly in my Portsmouth reaction, so you want to check that out. It's not what you think too as well. And then on the right hand side, you've got Uran Timber, and then we've got our trio in the middle there, which is Zubimendi, Rice, and Odegaard. And then to the left, Trossard, to the right, Saka and Gyökeres, who I expect will start this game. From Chelsea's perspective, Caicedo will be back, like I said, so he's going to want to prove a point in this game. But nothing changes, right? It just means that we just push on the things that are our strength, for us going into this game. And listen, guys, this is the semi-final of first leg away. Would I love for Arsenal to go into the Stamford Bridge and score lots of goals? Of course I would. But I think the reality is that this game is going to be a tight one, right? Chelsea are not want to give anything. They've got a new manager. They're trying to impress. So I expect them to be very, very competitive in this game. For me, success will look like this: a clean sheet for Arsenal, taking an advantage back to the Emirates. And for me, a 1-0 victory will just do Arsenal just great. Set piece, own goal, don't care. We just take a 1-0 goal and take away a clean sheet, and that's half of the job done. So remember I talked about, set pieces, discipline, why isolation. When this tide does swing, and I believe you that it will swing, it will come from one of those places. And when it does, it's inevitable. It should feel inevitable, for us as fans, because this is how trophies are built. quietly, methodically, having a process that works and repeating that time and time and time again. Even Pep was talking in his last press conference that, even in the seasons where they won titles, they just found ways to win. And what people are talking and laughing at Arsenal set pieces and own goal, actually, that's Arsenal finding ways to win, right? You can color it any other way, but it's Arsenal finding ways to win, and we just need to continue that. So, guys, let me know what you think, about this game coming up. What are your score predictions? Put that in the comments as well. Let me know who you would start. Would you start Raya in goal, or would it be Kepa? And more importantly, who scares you the most in this game for Chelsea? I didn't really talk about, Cole Palmer or Estevao because I expect those players to play, but I think we've got to focus on ourselves, and we've got the ability to go to Stamford Bridge and take a 1-0 victory back to the Emirates. So, guys, and that's the preview for Arsenal versus Chelsea. I don't know why I always say that. It's Chelsea versus Arsenal. But hit that like and subscribe button, please. And if you've been watching this channel and been coming back for the content, please subscribe. It's how the YouTube knows that there's good content here and can share with other Arsenal fans as well. Or even you can just share with other Arsenal fans as well. I really, really appreciate that. And don't forget to check my post-game reaction on the Arsenal game and some of my other reactions on the channel as well. So, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Take care of yourself. Let's enjoy this win, from Portsmouth. And we look forward to a busy, busy January for Arsenal, because this January is not going to let up. But until the next one, take care of yourself.